Hey there, friends, and welcome back to another 3-Minute Thoughts. My name is Derek, and in the next 3 minutes, we're going to take a look at 2 Kings chapters 5 through 8. These chapters are going to continue the story of the ministry of Elisha, the prophet who walks in God's miraculous power and wisdom. These chapters are also going to highlight the reach of God's grace far beyond Israel's borders. There's going to be a tension between faith and politics, and then we're also going to see how God provides, protects, and speaks even in the most desperate of times. All right, let's look at chapter 5, all about Naaman. Naaman, a commander of the Syrian army, has everything except health. He suffers from leprosy, and a young Israelite servant girl who was captured in war tells him about the prophet Elisha. Naaman travels to Israel and expects fanfare and all sorts of accolades, but Elisha doesn't even come outside. Instead, he sends word in verse 10 where it says, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times." Naaman is offended. He wanted drama, not humility. But his servants urge him to try. He obeys, and his skin is restored, like the flesh of a little child. But Elisha refuses payment for him. He wants to pay him, but Elisha refuses payment. Unfortunately, Elisha's servant Gehazi secretly follows Naaman to get silver and clothing. When Elisha confronts him, Gehazi is cursed with Naaman's leprosy. Now, if we move into chapter 6, at least the beginning portion of chapter 6, Elisha performs 2 striking miracles here in this chapter. The floating axe head, a prophet in training, loses a borrowed axe in the Jordan. Elisha tosses a stick in and miraculously makes it float. And then there's this invisible army. The king of Syria sends troops to capture Elisha. His servant panics, but Elisha prays in verse 17, "O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." Suddenly, the servant sees heavenly horses and chariots of fire surrounding Elisha. Elisha then prays for the enemy soldiers to be blinded, leads them to Samaria, and has them treated kindly and then released. Now, as we move into chapter 7, we see that Samaria is under siege by Syria, and the famine becomes so desperate that people resort to cannibalism. The king blames Elisha and wants him dead. That night, in the midst of all this, God causes the Syrians to hear the sound of an approaching army. They flee, leaving behind everything. 4 desperate lepers discover the abandoned camp, eat their fill, and tell the city. The next day, Elisha's words will come true, exactly as he said. Chapter 8 is all about Elisha helping the Shunammite woman again, Elisha speaking with Hazael of Syria, King Jehoram's evil reign, and then Ahaziah becomes king in Judah. These chapters remind us of God's power and mercy, how they reach across even borders. That's it for today. Be well, friends.